Hey, how's it going? So this again is this 3 racks opening with adding a factory after a fast expand, and it's kind of neat in that it gives you stim and 2 medevacs at 10 minutes, right? Which allows you to push out across the field and hopefully be able to retreat because of those medevacs. But the downside, of course, is that until stim finishes, infantry is useless. So again, if he just does a Rocheling Baneling all in, you're just going to lose with no chance of success. Last game you had a lot more economy. Let's go back up to 10 minutes because that's the easiest way to check benchmarks. 43 is not bad. It's not terrible. It's actually average, you know, like last game you were ahead of benchmark, this game you're just on benchmark, but it's not bad to be on benchmark. That's good. You're not making workers this very second. Dropping mules after you push out into the field, making units after you push out into the field, adding additional racks and additional command centers after you push out into the field are all things that are essential to making this type of build work, right? So you're going kind of marine tank with no upgrades, which means that you have to win before his 2-2 finishes. I mean, when he gets 1-1, he's going to have a pretty big advantage over you, but when he gets 2-2, you're just doomed. Nothing you can do. So he's working on 1-1 and Baneling speed, which is pretty typical to be working on around this time. And you're going to push out with your first force. So usually this type of build, you're going to push out with the first force and trade armies to kind of help prevent him from fully saturating his third and, you know, get some map control and, you know, deny further creep spread. And most importantly, to pull attention away from your third so that you can expand while you're pushing out. One thing that I'd like to see you do is anytime you're going to push across the field, send 1 Marine over to clear out your third location, even if you're not going to take it, just because he feels so much safer dealing with this push knowing that you don't have your third. If he has something sitting there looking at it and saying, oh, he has no third, or he has no third, then he can say, oh, I lost that fight, but even though I lost that fight, I have 3 bases, he has 2. As long as I can eventually mop this up, I'm going to be ahead economically. And he is way ahead economically. So you're showing up with no combat shields, with stim, and he has no banelings. This is like, and 1-1 is almost finished. You caught him seconds before he would have been prepared for this, and this is just really good dumb luck. So he's got those banelings morphing, but they're not done. So if you look at his army, he's got basically no army, and you showed up at 11 minutes against someone with no army and killed him. Again, this is more his mistake than something you did that worked out. Most good Zergs are going to have 56 workers at 8 minutes and then start pumping army until you attack them. So by the time you get here at 11 or 12 minutes, you should have a pretty big army. I mean, not big enough necessarily to kill all your Marines or whatever, but it should be like 3,000 or so. This guy had like a $1,500 army. So you're just going to win off of this push. But let's look at what you're doing behind the push, because the fact that you win is feedback enough on whether or not that push worked out. This is idle. You have no engineering base, no upgrades coming. This is idle. This doesn't have an extra reactor core on it. This is idle. These don't have anything queued up. The mules haven't been dropped. You haven't been dropping additional SCVs in a while. It looks like you went to 43 workers and cut. You didn't make an additional command center. You've got a ton of money in the bank, and you didn't clear your third. You didn't knock down these rocks. But most importantly, if you look, your tech units, right? Medevacs and tanks, all of them are sitting in your base not doing anything, which is fine if you're intending to do a wave-based attack, like you attack, you retreat, you attack, you merge up with your army and then attack again. But this army can't get away because speedlings are so fast, and you only have 2 medevacs here with like 28 Marines and 3 Marauders. So I would have liked to see you rally your starport to your medevacs. So what you can do is grab the hotkey that has all your buildings on it, right click on the ground, and then control click the starport and right click one of your medevacs. And then all additional medevacs will auto follow that medevac. And that would have allowed you to be safer in this push, be able to retreat when your next 2 and next 3 medevacs popped out. Piling up money while you push is like a universal problem that everyone has. and you got to just get used to the fact that that's going to happen and try to overcompensate. So just hold down the A button until you have literally no money left. Just boom, queue up a billion zillion units, and then go back to fighting for a while. And whenever you do get a chance to come away, you're going to come home with completely fully saturated racks and still having money. And that's how you know you just really need like 5 or 6 more racks. And then you can throw down the 3rd command center and a bunch of racks and drop mules and then go back to the fight. Dropping mules while you're pushing is really hard because we can't do it on the minimap. You have to actually look at your base to do it. So when you've knocked down his 3rd here, I know that you want to push up into the main to finish the game. Finish him! Like that. But what I would have done is hold position these 2 Marauders on the ramp, keep your Marines behind them, and then go back and macro for a little bit, and then go back and attack. Because if you do that, you're leaving your army in a position where it can't really just be destroyed by reinforcements. Because a lot of his reinforcements are going to be in his main, some of them are going to be over here, and if you've walled off with Marauders, then you're pretty safe for a second. So just try to do an attack that only lasts like a minute and a half or something, or less, you know, 20 seconds or whatever. And then get yourself in a position where if he attacks into you when you're not looking, it's okay. And then macro, and then come back to your attack and move on, right? You have to have breakpoints in the middle of the attack. You can't, just because you're on creep doesn't mean that it's okay to be constantly staring at your attack. So you basically added no infrastructure and especially no supply depots. I mean, that's the big thing, is that even though you've occasionally been building these Marines 8 at a time, 8 at a time is what, 800 a minute? No. I don't know. You're not spending your money is the point. I don't really necessarily need to do the math. So your income without mules has been 1,600, and 1,600 divided by 250 is 456. So you need like 6 constantly producing production facilities, and if you keep up on medevacs and tanks, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you have enough to spend your money theoretically. If you continue to build supply depots and continue to build SCVs, you should have been able to spend your money if you keep up on production. Your starport being idle for most of the time is a big piece of why you couldn't spend your money. Also, you missed a lot of tanks. You kept up pretty well on Marines, but if you're going to only produce Marines, you'd need a lot more racks than this. So yeah. That went well, but honestly, it wasn't great. Your opening was awesome. At 10 minutes, you had done awesome things. But from here, not to get any upgrades, not to get a 3rd, not to get additional racks, and not to keep using your starport and factories, and not to make any additional workers. To just cut workers at 43 and keep 43 for the whole game. That's all of those are pretty ridiculous things that you should definitely try to improve upon. But being aggressive with your Doom army is more important than those things. So like if you had to choose one or the other, you chose the right thing to do. It's just that I wish you could do this and come back home and macro kind of thing. Also, if we grab your vision, you've got 2 idle workers. That's not a lot. That's fine. And you're probably keeping them idle to make depots, so it might even be good that they're idle. It's just that you never remembered that you need to actually select them and make depots.
Research?
Yeah. Particularly dropping mules is something that you got to be able to go 4-4 E click 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 1-1, and just recognize that that doesn't take long enough for it to concern you. You know, like 1-1 4-4 click 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 1-1. Like you're only looking away from your army for a second. So dropping mules is something I understand why when you're on creep making an attack, it's really hard to look away and make additional racks, or look away and make additional supply depots, or make additional command centers. But mules is not something that takes a long time. So watching this from the first person perspective, when would it have made sense to look away? You gotta mop up these banelings now. Right now, 4-4 warrior 1-1, right? So that would have been a good time. Right here again, you're mopping up some banelings. The hatchery has just fallen. Again, as soon as those banelings die, this is another good time to look away in macro, especially if you can hold position dudes on the ramp. So just recognizing when you're safe for at least a couple seconds is important to playing Terran, because or to playing any of the races really. I mean, with Zerg you can do everything on the minimap, so you don't necessarily have to look away. But with Protoss and Terran, you have to look away to warp in. You have to look away to make additional buildings, that kind of stuff. So this was reasonable. It wasn't great, especially making siege tanks, not sieging them, not even getting siege mode. Like, what are those siege tanks for? I don't understand the benefit of these siege tanks. Right, because siege tanks, dollar for dollar, are worse than Marines against every unit. I mean, I know that they do a good damage unsieged to roaches and tanks, but that's compared to, like, a Banshee. Compared to a Marine, they do terrible damage. And not in a good way. Anyway, don't make unsieged tanks. It's just silly. And get upgrades. I don't know. I'm just saying the same things over and over.